Hello, it's Majesty here, and I'm your host of the Somebody Should Have Told Me podcast, where we talk about our convictions, our career, our coins, and just overall wellness. I want you to check out my ebook, Majesty's 6 Steps to Six Figures, where I show you how to get the salary you deserve. So click the link in the show notes, the bio, wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, and let me show you how to get to the money. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Somebody Should Have Told Me podcast. I am so excited today because I have an amazing special guest. My new friend, Funmi, is here with me today. She also goes by the Six Figure EA. And EA stands for executive assistant, if you don't know. So she and I actually do the same line of work. Okay. And she specializes in really helping executive assistants get their full market value. And we know there are all kinds of things happening economically, a lot of uncertainty. And so this is really a time where it is in your best interest to fortify yourself economically as best you possibly can. We don't know fully what the future holds, how everything is going to play out. And so I really wanted to take these couple of episodes to add some practicality on what we could do. You guys know that I am a solution focused person. And so we do feel like the world could be ending on one hand, but what can we do to preserve ourselves and still live and thrive on the other hand? So today I am joined by Funmi. Clap it up. So welcome, Funmi. Say hello to our audience.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much to Majesty for having me on her podcast. Fellow EAs, she said solutions oriented, and that's like one of my favorite phrases. As an executive assistant, we definitely have to be solutions oriented. So love that. And I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad to have you. So glad you said yes. You've been doing amazing work. I've been following you for some time now, and I would also consider you an EA's EA. Just one that people can really look to for a lot of insight and a lot of value. So, for those that don't know, executive assistant is basically an administrative office that is usually catered towards the C-suite, and the C-suite can be anything from a CEO, chief executive officer, chief operations officer, chief financial officer. I've supported chief revenue officer, chief technical officer, any chief at a company. And the more time expands, the more the C-suite expands. I think just as business explores and things like that. Chief people officer, that normally relates to like a head of HR or HR at the C-suite level, or something over people and culture in corporate spaces. So that is basically what we do. Now, also, although executive assistant, right, heavy on the word executive, other corporate offices can have an executive assistant as well. So that can be at the VP level. Just is as unique as whatever company you're working on. So that could be VP, director level, whomever a company decides needs an assistant. You could do that. So for me, at a base level, the executive assistant role includes like calendaring, sending emails, managing inboxes, expense reports. I'm more heavy on booking travel. My favorite part of my role is always off-site planning, which is where a lot of executives will go to take a trip to meet for business. And there's usually some team building, which allows for some leisure around it. And when I tell you, I have yet to see anyone beat my offsite planning. Okay, like if the economy wasn't in such a soft place, I would really toot my own horn with the offsites I have planned. I have planned cruises, bowling parties,
Nice.
facility buyouts, like game night style things. That is like my favorite part of my
Yeah.
job. um it could be from me liking to be social and things like that. But Funmi, tell us, what is your role encompass? What are some of the things that you've done as an EA?
Yeah, so I'm an executive assistant as well. I always like to say an executive assistant does these five core things: calendar management, travel coordination, expense reports, event planning, and project management, like special projects, stuff like that. So yeah, like you said, we're the behind the scenes, behind the executive, right? I like, that people like to use the term gatekeeper. I don't know how people feel about that, but my favorite part of the role is definitely the calendar. I like a color coded calendar. I like to quickly be able to glance at the calendar and say, this is what today is going to look like. It's going to be heavy on the one-on-ones, or it's going to be heavy on client meetings. And I like to set up the calendar in a way that the executive does not need to reach out to me. Like, everything you need is on the calendar. Your hotel confirmation. I'm even going to put 5-minute walk to the coffee
Yes.
shop. Like, I go to an extreme level of detail on the calendar, and I build a relationship with my executives such that they know that, the first thing they should reference is their calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it's not happening. So, yeah, I love the role. I've been in it I actually started as an executive assistant just in 2019. That's when
Okay.
I got my first EA role. I haven't really,
Really?
yeah, I haven't even really
Okay.
been in it that long. But similar to how you love the offsite planning, I used to be a wedding planner, and I think that it really prepared me. Like, that was the best, like, intensive to become an executive assistant, because I say that you kind of can think of a bride as an executive, but on steroids, right? Like, a
Yes.
bride, you're getting married, you only get married once, ideally. It's supposed to be your most perfect day. We know
Yeah.
nothing is perfect, so there's
No
a
pressure.
yeah, lots of pressure. Got to do a lot. There's something always goes wrong, so you have to be ready on the spot. And then, like, when I was a wedding planner, my itineraries that I would craft for the run of show were like to the 15-minute mark. I'd have one for vendors. I've had one for the family. I had one for so I was very detailed, very organized. So I got tired of that, and executive assistants really just seemed like a perfect natural transition. And honestly, executives are way more chill than a bride, so it's not life and death every day.
That is amazing. And that is the perfect transition, because if you can handle a wedding, you can definitely in your sleep, okay, be an executive assistant, because I didn't even know that many run of shows are necessary for a wedding, but that makes so much sense because your family is all over the place. And if you don't tell them what to do, they'll be all in your face and all that
Right.
good stuff. That is wonderful. I love that. Okay, so I'm definitely um a color coded calendar too. And another thing we should add is, when you're working as an executive assistant, your executive assistants are, or your executives, excuse me, are your internal clients. Okay.
Exactly.
And so your performance is measured on how happy they are. But the needs of that executive is unique to them. So at its core, our roles are the same, right? But depending on what facet of the business they are working in, or what lifestyle elements play into their work life balance, the day to day can show up differently for each executive. So, say for instance, like a previous role, I supported the chief revenue officer, but in addition, secondarily, the vice president of customer success and support and the vice president of sales, right? And so each of those people have different dynamics, two men and one woman. And the woman didn't have any kids, but the men had kids. You know what I'm saying? And so just kind of navigating what those elements are for them. So, like, most recently, one of the calendar cadences that I established was, we did internal one-on-ones on one day, where he can just sit and hammer out every direct report, just kind of back to back. And even though those direct reports are different facets of the business, they all know what they're expected to report, and you can at least have one frame of mind. I think
Yeah.
context switching is so important.
Yeah.
And there's a study that basically says that it's I don't want to jack up the numbers, but in concept, it's like, if you break the context of what you're thinking about, I think over the course of like 20 minutes or something like that, that it really takes your brain like 2 or 3 more hours to get back
Yeah.
fully focused on what you were doing. So and I know I'm jacking the numbers up, but you can look it up, look up what context switching is for our listeners. But I try to, that's my focus, is where in spaces that I cannot eliminate time or, excess time where it's just like, hey, you have a full day today, from start to finish. How much context switching can I eliminate where you're at least working on one type of thing at the same time? And so
Yeah,
typically I'll do like an external half day, if that's what works for your executive, because that may be magic for one and a
yeah,
nightmare,
yeah,
for the other executive. What
yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I try to do something like it really depends. So, right, I've supported over 21 executives at this point. So, I definitely now, like, what is 20? It's like almost 6 years, it's like 6, 7 years in. I think I've gotten really good at spotting executive types and like
Okay.
what type of person will work well with what system and how you need to react and adjust yourself as an EA to support an executive. So I did have an executive that we tried to do we did Fridays as well, one-on-ones on Fridays, and then because naturally in a week, Fridays typically become less busy. And it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That is like the busiest, heavy meetings. But then by Friday, people are tired and they don't want to speak. And so it worked. It works until it doesn't work, and then people are on PTO and they have to shift their one-on-ones, and then
Mm-hmm.
it starts to get a mess. But what I would say is like as an executive assistant, it is our jobs to what do you say, stretch or flex to the needs of our executive, right? So when I get an interview and somebody's asking me what's your working style, it doesn't really matter what my working style is as an executive assistant because I have to be flexible to the working style of the executive I support. I mean, I think there is a point in time where you have to know yourself and know that I cannot work with this type of executive, and I've gotten to the stage where it's like it doesn't even matter. I can flex, but I don't want to flex at this stage. I want to
Correct.
work with you. But yeah, you definitely have to anticipate the needs of your exec and adapt accordingly. I have some executives that I know can never do back to back meetings. Like they could probably only do like 2, 3 meetings a day and they're going to be late to every single one. So I have to text them the Google Meet Hangout or something. So I think you just have to be adaptable. That's the word I was looking for. You have to be adaptable as an executive assistant to accurately support whatever executive you are working with and their working style. So that's really the key.
I love that. I'm so glad you said the quiet part out loud because when I'm interviewing and people are asking me what's your work style, I'm literally thinking in my mind, it does not matter. Like there are some things that matter, like how I get my morning started, like I write my notes or I do this, but it's really up to what the executive needs and you do have to be flexible. But I'm so glad you said that because in my mind I'm like, why would you ask me
Right. It doesn't.
something like that? Like you can't be married to your own way in this
Yeah.
type of
And
with
that's how
that
they
type of
catch you.
executive.
That's how they
Yeah.
catch you. Because I've been on interview panels interviewing EAs for like my company, and
Hmm.
we do ask them that, and some people are very rigid. I'm just like, why would you, as an EA, like you're setting yourself up, like they trapped you and you fell into the trap. Like you're not
Yeah.
supposed to say, I'm very organized, I need this and that. You say, I'm adaptable. That's what
Yeah.
we're looking for.
So true.
Yeah.
And two, the type of executives that you get can fluctuate. Someone could
Mhm.
leave and come into the company
Exactly.
and, the role can change from what you're originally hired for. So you dropped a little gem. You said you've kind of gotten executives down to executive types. What are some of the types that you've observed?
Yeah, so okay, so I would say one type is the great executive. Like,
Okay.
I have worked for CEOs and executives where I'm like, you guys know what you're doing. You're smart. You're working hard.
Yes.
You're getting through your emails. You're responding to people. You're treating people with respect. This is a company that's gonna succeed. But
Yeah.
then on the reverse, I've worked with some like of the tech bros. They dropped out of their top college and they started
Ooh.
at 22, and they're just all it's a lot of ego, a lot of ego. You see that come through in how they treat their employees, how they treat their staff. They're really wild pronouncements, they're really wild requests, And what I've learned is with when you're dealing with a type, the first type, the smart, professional executive, they're on their game, and that makes you want to be on your game as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you feel energized and supportive working with them versus working with someone who like does not necessarily respect their employees or their time. It's like you then have to kind of pick and choose. You have to have the nuance to understand like what they really need versus what they're asking for, right? So like one time, I'll give this an example. I think one of my old execs asked me to, like, he sent me a bunch of screenshots of his, like, personal Amex and was
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know what these charges are. Like, figure them out. Like, call them and tell them, call these companies and tell them to reverse the charge. And that's all. And I'm just like, sir, like, first of all, I need to be an authorized member of your personal Amex. Like, I can't just call and say, I
Call.
have no context.
Right.
Like in the grand scheme of things, like you probably did book these things and you forgot, and this is just not really important to the business right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna say I'm never gonna do this, but this is not a priority. What is a priority?
Okay.
We're trying to raise money right now. We need to be focused on that. Let's leave the
Yeah.
Amex charges for like $50 alone and focus on making money for the business. So
Yeah.
am I gonna say that to him to his face? No. But it's something that because I just know what the company needs and I know his type, I feel comfortable kind of making that executive decision. It's almost like training your executive in a way. Like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you have to train them because they don't, maybe they've never had an EA before and this is their first
Yes.
in a company and they just don't know what they don't know. So you got to redirect and, focus their attention where it belongs sometimes.
Oh, that was so good. Okay, so like I was telling you off camera, I went from a great executive to supporting a tech bro, and you just made that clear. I might have to talk to my therapist about that. Oh my God. I my executive before that was a dream. Do you hear me? A brilliant mind, someone I truly respect as a person, knew what he was doing in the business. I mean, family dynamics together, showed up well at work, knew how to talk to people, knew how to graciously have hard conversations. And then after that, I was patching everything up. Like I'm trying to prevent a walkout here, you know? So,
Yeah.
and you have to know what you can handle. I wouldn't encourage anyone to tolerate like an abusive environment, but there are such a range. And when I tell you too, speaking to because where are you located?
I'm in DC right now.
Oh, okay. Why did I think you were in New York?
I'm going back there. I'm going back to New York where I belong.
Okay, nice. Okay, so wait, how do you like how was DC, or what brought you out there? Did you relocate?
Yeah, so I was living with my sister.
Okay,
Both actually now we're both executive assistants. I pulled her into the into the role.
good.
But at that time we were both working in New York remotely, and
Okay.
she wanted to try a new city. Like we're from New Jersey, we lived so
Okay.
New York wasn't too far from home. So we chose DC. It was an easy move. And yeah, now she's engaged, so I'm gonna
Oh,
go back to where my roots.
okay. That is so good. Okay, that is amazing. So, everybody on the podcast knows that I took a role in San Francisco. And in San Francisco, let's say you're just scrolling through your phone through your apps. Every app that you use has a logo in San Francisco. You walk down the street and it is just tech nation,
Yes.
out there, and there are startups starting every day. So there's such a wide range of what you can get when you say I'm going to be an executive assistant. And I've actually had multiple times executives come to me and say, I've never had an EA, or they're being promoted, right, and never got assigned one. I don't know how to use you. Tell me what you can what I can expect, and things like that. Now I actually have been an EA throughout my career. So like there's a couple of different roles in there, like a little bit of project management, but I've been doing this a while, like 15 years of experience total across different industries, like legal
So,
assistant
yeah.
and different things like that. Um, I was going somewhere with that. I'll come back to it if it comes back to
Okay.
me. How about that? Um, that thought left me, and I will leave it alone. Um, Just there being a wide range of what type of executives you can get. Now, the thing I do love about my skill set, so I majored in business administration for my associates and business management for my bachelor's. No matter what the market does, you're going to have a job. It's that same skill set and those needs are going to
Very
apply to any
critical.
job market.
Yeah.
So, talk about how you go in, let's say someone's coming in on day one. Tell us a little bit about how you establish your relationships with your executives, because
Yeah.
that's, a new, and it's a very intimate, professionally intimate bond, because of the information that you're privy to. How
Yeah.
do you
It's
merge and
actually very important. It's a very important like topic. I actually did a webinar on this. So it's like, how do you onboard yourself or onboard your executive onto their service or your service, however you want to phrase it. The first 30 days is critical. It's really when you're going to set yourself up for success, get all the information you need in order to make decisions, right? I think a lot of EAs, so I just did a lot of EA interviews, right? And
okay.
what the common theme I see is like a lot of people are reactive. They're waiting to be told things. But executive assistants, good executive assistants, we are almost doing the telling. Like, you're managing
Yes.
the executive. They're not managing you. That's what people are not necessarily understanding. So the first week, let's start off. You're going to definitely start off with a one-on-one with your executive. In that one-on-one, it's not like you need to understand everything. You're only probably going to have 30 minutes. They're busy after all. But you want to start to build that relationship. So kind of understand, get a sense of their home life, where they live, and some of their restraints, like some of their pain points, right? Because you're coming in to like help alleviate some pain points, some burdens from them. And then I think in the first week, you're probably going to have several one-on-ones. So within that first week, you want to you want to definitely fill out your executive dossier. So that's like their executive profile that has all their personal information. This is a confidential document, but like their full name, date of birth, travel preferences, loyalty numbers for hotels and airlines. Sometimes I ask for their passport, social security number if they're doing like a lot of international travel where you're gonna have to be booking visas and stuff. But you want to collect all that information week one. It's a lot of information for them to give you, so you may have to chase them a little bit, but you really want to get that, because once you have all that information, you don't have to keep going back. Oh, what's your TSA pre-check number? Oh, do you like window or aisle? Like, it gets annoying. Just collect it all at one time. Force them to just put it on their calendar, 15 minutes, fill out the dossier, do what
Yeah.
you got to do, and get all that information week one. You also want to start building relationship with your like key stakeholders. So this is going to be like the direct reports of your executive. I think people often overlook the like cross-functional stakeholders or whatever, but
Hmm.
the people internally your executive is likely going to be spending the most time with are his direct reports and his peer level. So if he's on the C-suite, other C-level executives.
Yes.
So try to, not within the first week, I would say within the first quarter, definitely meet with all his direct reports. And even if you can like do 5-minute, 15-minute check-ins with the C levels, it's going to help if you understand like what your executive is doing, what the business or the department is trying to do. It's going to really help you make decisions and good decisions on behalf of your executive. So meet with the direct reports, do a quick meet and greet, understand where they are, what they kind of do. So like if you have to like direct stuff, okay, Tim is in charge of operations, so I'm going to send that over to Tim. I'm going to delegate that to Tim, or my executive can't make this meeting. Maybe Tim can go instead because this is Tim's org, stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
you want to start building that's relationship building. Start to build those relationships. If you have EAs on your team, you definitely want to connect with the executive assistants. These are the people that, have the historic knowledge that you don't know of the company. They're going to be like the first people to go to if you have a question. And they're also going to like be your PTO coverage, your backup support. So you definitely want to have strong relationships with your EA team if you have one. And then a lot of times EAs are also liaising with like HR business partners and the CFO for the department or the finance org in terms of like budgeting and stuff like that. So in terms of relationship building, definitely in the first quarter, set up meetings with, all those cross-functional stakeholders to really understand what the company is doing and how they play a role, because these are people you're going to be working with moving forward. And of course, you're going to spend minimum, I would say, weekly one-on-ones with your executive, where you're reviewing their calendar, if you're going through their inbox, flagging any important emails, and just really understanding their core priorities, and how they're making impact in the business, so that you can move accordingly, right? The key thing at the end of the day is, when you're onboarding an executive, you want to get to a place where you don't have to ask them questions as fast as possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen in
Yes.
a week, but I like to be fully set, ready to go, like by the first month. I don't want to be asking them silly questions. I really want to ask them, oh, is this a client that you need to meet with this week, or can it be next week? Like, that's really the extent of the questions. And then I can find my answers going through the email inbox. If they're CCing you on an email to schedule, read through the whole email thread so you get the context of the meeting. And that could give you a lot of
Yes.
the answers that you may have. Just read through the email thread. You know what I'm saying? So there's
Yes.
a lot of things you can do to set yourself up for success, but I highly recommend those things right there. What do you
That is that's amazing. Yeah, I think it's really important. So yes, I'll do those things in my first two calls. It's usually going to take me my first two calls. I'm usually transcribing it for them. So I will get passport numbers, social security numbers, because by that time there is, for me, it's been global organizations and there's a lot of quick overseas travel. And then one of my little hacks is with the seats. I go from the top to the bottom. So, meaning if your number one preference is first class window seat, right? Okay, then I'm going to ask my executives, okay, if you can't get that, then what do you want? First class aisle seat. Okay, if you can't do that, okay, well, then give me a comfort plus window seat. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Because they might not want to do, they might want a side seat as opposed to a middle seat. So they might want to go a class back. Do that till you get all the way to the back of the bus,
Right.
and so by then I've got six, seating preferences in order of how I work my way down. So when my executive says, hey, I need to go to London tomorrow, okay, where do you want to sit? Okay, well, if you got to be there tomorrow, well, there's only two seats left. Let me look at
Right.
my list and see what you have, and you need to be able to make that decision on the fly. Some people call it a dossier, some people call it an EA Bible.
Yeah.
It's all really the same thing, and it's kind of like your point of reference so that you don't have to keep going back and asking all of these questions. So in there should be food allergies. So when you plan a meeting, don't go ordering tree nuts
Right.
if they're allergic to that stuff.
Yeah.
And it sometimes will feel a little maybe like petty when you're having to meet these people on day one and day two and ask these type of questions. But what's even worse is if you're 6 months down the line and you
And you
don't
don't.
know these things, right? And then you got all these unnecessary setbacks. And
Yeah.
you got to look at the C suite. These executives are telling everyone else what to do. And so if you're not two steps ahead, you're just another person that they've got to tell what to do.
Exactly.
And then you start to feel like an up close problem as opposed to their corner man and their solution saying, look for this and look for that. And this is what I've done in fixing problems before these executives even know what happened. Okay. And so I want to talk about a couple of skills that I think are important, like soft skills that are vital to the EA executive relationship. For me, I would say trust. Trust is earned, but you need to figure out how to earn your executive's trust. Discretion is one important. I would say confidence is very important. And a couple of things, what I mean by that is you are working with one of my last executives was a billionaire. You have to be confident. You cannot have like peasant energy when you are around these people. Square your shoulders, right? And present yourself like you have something to contribute and you're also ready to help. Not like you run the place. I mean, we know, you know,
We.
who runs a place, but like you're ready to um be at their aid, right? And that you're aware and that you kind of have the environment, under control. Um And another thing, like sometimes, like when this advice goes out, like on TikTok or how people are saying this, I've seen it. I was at a tech conference a couple years ago, and you could tell the people that were in there got the news from TikTok. It was so bad because you could tell they were trying, but they just didn't know. Just a little side tangent. People, it was like when this thing was going around to get good guys by going to like business conferences and
Yeah.
different things like that. And so we're at this tech conference, it's a professional setting, and people came there in their club gear. I'm talking about leather two pieces, you know what I'm saying? And the only thing it did was show
Who shouldn't be?
your, yes. And I hate to say that. And so why I want to give nuance to what I'm saying is we want you to feel like you can level up and be able to go into new rooms, but there's a way to go about doing that. And so when I'm saying to have a confidence about you, the way that you approach these rooms in a confident way means when we're saying we know who's really running it, we're saying we know what the value is to have the ear of the executives. And so your executive is out front and they are calling the shots. But if you get the chance to kind of whisper the play on here's what's going to be happening next, that's what's empowering about the role. But that authority needs to be maintained with discretion,
Yeah.
right? And so if you are presenting yourself in an office setting like the motor mouth, you can hang it up.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just it's waiting for review time and you're out of there. You know what I'm saying? You just don't want to look like the person who is the loose lips. As the old saying goes, loose lips sink ships, you know? So just kind of having bit of a polishness about you. Not, I mean, there somewhat, and when I'm saying polished, I mean just
Executive.
discreet, like know when to hold back, know when to speak, right, know when to pass a little note to the side, know how to present yourself in a refined manner. So those are important. And then one of the ways that I build trust with my executives is I find out what is their personal non-negotiable. Okay, so for each executive that's always different. So for my, let's say at a previous company, I had an executive and he needed to walk his kids to school every morning. That's their time. And then he needed to have a workout in his lunch hour. So you can book him till midnight if you want. However, the kids get to bed is up to their mother. But his personal non negotiable is walking those kids to school every day. Yeah, so I was talking about what is the one of the ways that I build trust with my executives, and I said I like to ask what their personal
Non.
non-negotiable is. And so an example is I had an executive; he always needs to walk his kids to school every morning, and he needs a workout during his lunch hour. He could work till midnight if you know if you want him to take meetings till 9 p.m., but he needs those things. And when you can show them that you are prioritizing, at least calendar wise, what is important and sacred to them, it fosters a trust because it shows that you're invested in their interest. Different things for different folks. I had an executive who he just needed to know where his kids were. So he couldn't be at every soccer game, but he needs to know, are they at soccer? Are they at tennis? And he needs that visibility of where his kids are. Now, this executive, he had an au pair in addition to the kids' mothers, right? So he's not at everything, but him just having an awareness of what is happening with my family, he needed that daily visibility to go out and be able to make things happen.
Yeah.
And so you'll just ask them, just, what's one thing that you really need to have? I've had executives, this was a toxic culture, but he couldn't get a restroom break. He's like, Majesty, I'm trying to like mute the calls. Now, the whole culture was toxic from top to bottom, but it's what's important to them. And by the time I was finished with him, he was having daily lunch and he was able to get a daily workout in. He was like, man, I can actually get a 30-minute work in with the cadence that you've set. So what are some of the soft skills that you feel like are important to the EA executive relationship?
Well, I definitely agree with what you said. Just like trust, discretion, like is very important because we are in their email inboxes. So if you have access,
Yes.
you can see salary information, you can see upcoming reorgs, you can see a lot of stuff that is very sensitive. So it's really like you have to be trustworthy. But my top three, I would definitely say being proactive, being or solutions oriented, whatever you want to call it, is critical as an executive assistant. I think especially as a strategic EA working in like the tech world, in the finance world, we really are not reactive support. We are proactive support. Like we're supposed to be reducing the time burden. That's the whole point of us, like to do things that our execs don't have time for. So I think a lot of people are scared of making mistakes. Mistakes are natural, normal. No one is perfect. Like I've had to, when I've mentored or coached EAs on my team or just like through six-figure EA, there's this fear, like everybody is just scared. Like, what happens if I make the wrong decision? What happens if I book the wrong flight? What happens if I book the wrong restaurant? I have to tell you, this is not life and death. We're not saving lives here. Okay. Your exec didn't like the restaurant you booked. That's feedback for you, right? Like
Yeah.
you take note of that and you make sure you don't book that restaurant again. Don't book restaurants that are similar to that restaurant again. And you move forward. It's not the end of the day. You're not gonna lose your job because you booked a bad restaurant. Okay. So be proactive, be solutions oriented, know that you're going to make mistakes along the way, but that's how you learn. It's like, okay, sometimes maybe I thought this client was more important than this client, and I didn't have time to confirm with my executive. I just had to make a decision. I made the wrong decision. Then they're going to send me an email. Hey, Funmi, like next time, please prioritize this client. We're doing this deal and this is like number one. Okay, I'm so sorry. Thanks for letting me know. I'll be sure to flag this moving forward. Like that's it. Don't start to create this whole drama, this whole story. Apologize, say you won't do it again and try not to do it again and move on. So keep it moving, but still be proactive and solution oriented. Anticipating needs. I think that's that nuance that comes along with being solutions oriented, that it's kind of hard to train, right? It's hard to train someone on how to anticipate needs of an executive if you just have never done it before. But it's really critical, right? Like if you know that your executive is traveling across the country, he doesn't then need to tell you, I need a hotel, I need dinner
Correct.
reservations, I need this and I need that. It should even be you saying, okay, I booked you at this hotel, I booked dinner at here. Actually, there's a client that you've been wanting to meet in this area. Do you want to set up a lunch meeting while you're in town? Like that's how you become a strategic partner, because it's like it's not just like you're scheduling meetings, you're scheduling dinners. You like understand like these are where our clients are located, and here's how to even maximize your time even more. Why don't you have some client meetings while you're attending this conference since you're in this location and you know who the clients are, or that I'm going to go to the account team and tell them to pull our top clients in this area because my executive is going to be there next week and he wants to have. So what did I just say? Anticipating the needs is important. And then I think, what would I say is the last soft skill? Of course, organization. That's my number one. As an EA, you got to be organized. You're managing. You could be managing multiple executive schedule, like a lot of logistics, a lot of details. So you have to be organized with whatever method you do things. So my organization, I would say as an example, it's not like a perfect, pretty plan, but I have this thing that I do every day that works. So when I wake up, my phone is like my external organ. Okay. So
Okay.
first thing I'm going to do is check all my executives' calendars, make sure no conflicts popped up overnight. I'm doing a quick run through of my email, make sure nothing urgent comes up, like nothing that I need to do within the next 3 hours. Usually nothing comes up, right? But you never know
Yeah.
what can pop up overnight. So I always do that scan. I use inbox zero method. So, as EAs, a lot of our tasks and requests are coming in through email. So I see my email as my task box or my task list. And depending on how many emails I have determines how busy my day is. So like right now, I think I have like 6 emails. So it's not that busy day, but some days I'm going to have like 75. I'm like, okay, I need to sit down.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here for a while, so that inbox zero method helps me stay organized and just always checking the calendar morning, afternoon, and before I log off at the end of the day, making sure the next day looks good. And then I also use running agendas with my executives. So for
Okay.
one-on-ones, I have a document like a Google Doc that I keep all our past agendas in. So
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, and then I just use that. I've now changed the bullets to check marks or a check
Okay.
box so that I can just click it and check it off when I've completed the task. So between those two methods, that's pretty much how I stay organized. And we just need to be on top of things because execs often don't remember what they tell us, and we need to remember for them. So we got to stay organized with all our requests. Yeah. So those are the
Absolutely.
things.
Oh, that's so good. And to that, I will also say, we talked about discretion to balance out your discretion with visibility. That's another way to build trust is if you know your executive said something and you know he's going to forget that he asked you, you don't forget and you go say, "Hey, I did this thing that you wanted me to do." And then he starts to know, "Okay, I can depend on
Yeah.
you. You're on top of things and things like
Yeah.
that." um and you should be their one of their first thoughts, right? Or you're doing a good job when you're the first thought that comes to mind when something is going wrong, right? So you have other
Yeah.
mediums, right? Like you were talking about your calendar, but if anything goes wrong, your executive should know. Let me ask Majesty, like, Majesty, what is this? Is this our doing, or things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where you're currently EAing it, how many executives do you have on your desk right now? What's your workload like?
I have three. So two C-suite execs and one like SVP that is a little bit more ad hoc. Um, but the C levels, so they're pretty big. They're busy. Like white space is a premium. They don't have any white space on their calendar. They're back to back, overbooked and overworked. But no, they're great executives. I love working for them. I've been at my company now for like it's gonna be 4 years in November, so I'm about to be fully vested. Can't wait.
Oh, ooh, girl.
Yeah. But one of the things I think is interesting, right? As my salary is high, and I think I'm compensated. Well, I don't know about fairly, but I'm compensated well. But as the company made a decision this year to not give any raises to the EAs. Instead, they gave us bonuses.
Okay, okay.
So I don't know how I feel about that because it's like, what happens if you don't want to give us the bonus next year? Like, so what I'm trying to get at, it seems like I'm tapping out at this top, like I'm at the top of the salary range,
Top end,
the
yes.
EA role at this point. But I'm clear, I'm definitely one of the best EAs in the company. They say it
Okay.
multiple times. Anytime they're having an issue with an EA, who are they going to switch? Is me to go and save the day. And I've consistently gotten great feedback in my performance reviews. So now I'm like dealing with the dilemma is like, okay, I'm at the top of the salary range. Like it's unlikely that I'm going to see significant bumps like I was seeing prior. So what does that mean for me in my career? Like, am I going to leave or am I going to just stay and say, look, I love this company. I want to see it through regardless of the salary. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do.
And that's how I feel, why I'm thinking like I'm ready to go the chief of staff route or some type of pivot happening. Because I feel like been
Topic.
at the, yeah, especially too with like relocating, so there are, for those that are listening, a lot of postings will have different salary ranges, but based on geographical zones, right? So a role is going to pay the highest if you're living in New York,
Or Cali.
yeah, or California. But and it'll go sometimes specifically down to the city,
San
San
Francisco,
Francisco. It's
LA.
like, so, yeah, they're like, I think it goes like as far as most expensive, like New York, then San Francisco and stuff like that. And then, so Houston is kind of like in the middle with us being in the South. Um, so what are you noticing in the job market?
Yeah,
What is happening? What are you seeing?
girl,
Tell us.
it's crazy. So first of all, I'm remote right now.
Okay.
Um, and I know like a lot of people who were initially drawn to my page, everybody was interested in remote work. I mean, I started in 2023 when we were like still in COVID time, so remote work was booming. But remote work is not booming right now. Like, unfortunately, I'm not
Mhm.
seeing any remote roles. Like, or of course, it's gonna be like super difficult to get because everybody wants a remote role right now. I do see a lot of hybrid and in-person roles, and those roles, EA roles, and those roles are, they're deep. Like at least in New York, the pay is good. Like it's appropriate level for New York, I would say. But from what I've heard, like the last time, I used to be overemployed, so I had like multiple EA roles, and it was really not hard for me to get a job when I like during COVID. I was picking up jobs like that. It was very easy. But now it's not easy. Like I think where it used to take me a month to 3 months, I would advise people, it's taking 6 months. I worked with someone, we both got laid off at the same time. It took her a year and a half to get the next job, and she's a solid EA. You know what I'm saying? She's a solid EA. We were doing the same role. Like I was working with her. She's solid EA. It took her a year and a half. I don't know if she was like hyper focused on remotes, but it's taking time for jobs now. And it just with the AI as well. I'm not saying like I don't think AI is going to replace the EA role, because still like you still need to command AI to do things, so it still needs that human touch. But I will say with AI, I don't think teams need as many EAs. So where they need maybe you could get away with a team of 2, or so like the roles are reducing because one person can do more than they used to be able to do now. So it's a tough job market, and I think now people, instead of like, I used to hype LinkedIn jobs, like apply to LinkedIn jobs, because that's where I was getting most of my roles. But now I really think it's networking and like who you know, and trying to get in like fast with maybe the cold emailing or getting a referral to really get that job. So a lot of networking, maybe all the like LinkedIn influencing is becoming a thing, and I'm seeing a lot of EAs now really like being out there like with the tips and the advice. So maybe recruiters would be more likely to go to them first because they're right front and center. So there's something to be said for like being a little bit more active on LinkedIn and connecting with your peers, because they can potentially refer you to their company if there's an opening. Working with recruiters as well directly can be helpful. I'm a little bit hesitant now to say just apply to 1,000 jobs, because people have been applying to 1,000 jobs with not even getting a call back. So I don't even know. I think there's going to be a big revolution with the job industry right now, because how it's going is not working out well for people. I don't think, like, it seems like a whole lot of wasted time and effort for like nothing, and that's very frustrating. So it's tough. Networking, who right now, I think is really going to be key. Unfortunately.
I think too, I kind of feel like it could be specifically towards the tech industry. And maybe even broadly, right? But I've been applying across a couple different types of role, mainly within tech. I guess that's just what LinkedIn serves me. But I put out a lot of content on LinkedIn, and I haven't noticed it as of late do the same thing that it did for me a couple of years ago. So that was how I landed my role that I took in San Francisco. Was the executive came to me and was like, I love your LinkedIn. Everything that you do on there, I need you to come and do for me, So, but I'm not seeing that same how, you know what I'm saying? And I have a very vast network. Like one of my tips is you should always be networking. You should always be open to work. You should always be looking for your next opportunity. But I can see even some of like the recruiters that I knew at different companies, they've gone on or pivoted to do things, elsewhere and things like that. But I kind of think that may speak to just the uncertainty economically with this administration, companies not knowing how things are going to shake out. I think everyone just like at a standstill, kind of like bracing themselves,
And I think everything is a cycle, right? Like, right. And when we were in COVID, it was an employee's market for sure. Like,
yes. Okay. That's what I'm like.
Right. Yeah. But now we're in the down. Now we're in the bottom where it's an employer's market. So it's going to swing back around. It's just painful. I think it's back around. It's just painful while you're in it and you're trying to get a job. And it's like, wow, why do I have to be at the bottom end? Why couldn't I have gotten in at the top? So yeah, it's just tough right now, but still LinkedIn for me specifically, like even before I was an EA, I have always been cold emailing, like where I just like send people my resume and cover letter. with a kind of catchy title. And
Mhm.
majority of times it doesn't work, but at the end of the day, you just need it to work once. And it's worked for me like 3 times.
Oh
The latest
wow.
role I just got was a cold email and I got it. So you don't know, like I would say still cold email because you just need one person to read that email and take a chance on you and you got a job. And some people like that proactivity. But now I'm gonna say that with a grain of salt because now I'm in executives' inboxes, I do see a lot of those cold emails and I'm archiving them because they don't got time for that. So I don't know. Like
Yeah.
one maybe I would also try emailing like an EA manager or
Okay.
another EA in the company. I have cold email EAs in companies before, and then they just referred me. And you know, when you get an internal referral, they usually
Mhm.
give you at least a phone screen at the very
Yeah.
like as a courtesy. So don't necessarily just send it out to the executives. Try like hiring managers or EA managers, EAs in the company as well. They could help you out. Yeah.
That is so good. Okay, so can you talk to us about the juicy stuff? So you're fully vested. Can you talk to us about your salary progression as an EA?
Yes. So my first role as an EA. Okay, so let me say this too. I'm a finesser, guys. Like I will say what I need to say to get a job. And I've always my first role. I got that job off of Well Found. I was specifically targeting
Okay.
startups like Series A, Series B startups because my thought process was these companies are young. Maybe ideally they've never worked with an EA before, so
Mhm.
they probably don't know what an EA should or should not do. And I could get away with. There's going to be more flexibility because it's a young company, all hands on deck type of mentality. So
Okay.
I reached out to this. It was a health tech startup on Well Found, which was formerly AngelList. Was conversing with the head of people. I got an interview. It was very easy. I did like 3 in-person interviews with the CEO, the president, and the chief of staff at the time. They liked
Okay.
me. I got the job. They offered me 75,000 to be the EA to the CEO and the president, and also the office manager. So it was in person in New York in Tribeca. I
Okay.
was at that job for 6 months. So at that time where I was applying to this first job that I got, I had also been in talks with another company that I actually wanted to work with, but
Mhm.
they weren't ready. So six
Okay.
months later, they came back to me and were like, "Hey, we want to hire you now, and we're gonna pay you 92.5." And I was like, "Absolutely!" So I hopped within 6 months. I hopped
Okay.
with that company. Also, it was more like pharmaceutical healthcare tech company startup as well, Series B.
Okay.
That was supporting this. So there, I was supporting 4 people. I was supporting the CEO, the CFO, the chief medical officer, and the head of sales.
Mhm.
But I was no longer an office manager. I wanted to get out of being an office manager. Just wanted to be an EA.
Mhm.
So that was good. And then I got promoted in like 2020 or something after a year to 100,000. And then
Okay.
COVID hit. That role became fully remote. Um, and then I hopped to another role at Genius actually,
Okay.
the music app. I was supporting the CEO and president there. I I tried to negotiate. This one was actually funny. So I think they offered me like 105 or 110 or something,
Uh-huh.
and then I negotiated to get up to at least like 115, and
Okay.
then they got up to 115, and I accepted it. So when I got in the role, I went through the emails because I was curious on the back end to see like who was like my competition. And,
Ah, this is crazy.
and then when I found my email, they're talking about my negotiation like separately, and they're like, yeah, if she doesn't accept 115, let's just go with the second candidate. So like, it
Shut
shows that
up.
you need to know what to, stop the negotiation
My
and
God.
accept. So I was like, okay, fine. They gave me 5K. I'll take it, whatever. Because it's really, they gave the feeling that they really didn't have this money. But they
Okay.
also offered me a 15K bonus. So that Genius then got acquired. So the people I supported, like they left, whatever. So that didn't really last too long. I moved to my current company now,
Okay.
where they stay. So that too was very interesting. That's why I love this company, and I don't know if I will leave because when I was applying, they were saying 135, 135, 135. And then I was like, I really want 145. And they were like, we can only do 135. And I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
fine. I accepted the role. And then after I accepted, they come back to me and they're like, okay, we'll actually give you 145. And I'm like, who does that? Like, what
Yeah.
company is gonna, after you accept, come back and give you 10K more? So I was like, wow, this is a good company. Like, they're really, they're honorable or whatever. Like, I really appreciated that. So that was in like 2021. I after a year they gave me a 15K raise. I got to
Okay.
160, and then after another year, going on to my third year, they raised me to 168. And then my fourth year, that's this year, they gave me the 10K bonus. So they did
Okay.
not raise my salary, but they gave me a 10K bonus, so bringing my compensation to 178 for the year.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens next year, but I'm still here and we love
Yeah.
it. So that's my salary progression so far. Yeah.
That is amazing. Okay, so when you did your first two startup roles, did you negotiate those salaries?
Um, I don't remember. I don't remember
Okay.
if I've negotiated the 75. I think because at the time I was like coming off of wedding planning and I was like,
Just glad to
I
be.
was thrilled that it worked. Like all my
Yeah.
financing worked. So when I moved to the second startup, the first company did try to say like, if we can match them, will you stay? And I was like, no, because I don't want to be an office manager. So that's why
Oh,
I left. I don't think I really tried to negotiate so much because it was so much more than 75,000. I was like, wow, this is great.
out of here. See ya, pal.
I'm out of here. So yeah, but then I think once I got into the second company, I was like, wait, I need to start negotiating. Like, I think I started to see how much were making in New York, and I'm like, okay, I need to get to the 100K. I need to get up because actually, when the second company raised my salary from like 92 to 100,
Mhm.
I wanted more, so I wasn't like super happy.
Yeah.
I just like y'all just barely, you just made me hit six figures. Thank you. But yeah, negotiating is a skill. I think that it's very important. Some of the things people can do, first of all, is to always try to push back in the interview and get the recruiter to tell you the salary. And now with salary transparency laws coming into effect, like it really shouldn't be that much of a pushback. I think it's really important to try as much as possible not to say your number first because like you said earlier, Majesty, like you wanted 75, 85, but luckily that was a great company that gave you 100K regardless of what you said. But a lot of
Yeah.
companies are not like that and they'll just like take advantage of your lack of knowledge. So and then it's also a strategy, right? Like if it sometimes because I was working multiple jobs, I didn't really care like if I didn't need the same salary in all the
Okay.
jobs. So I just want to see how high can I get. So I'm like,
Yes.
you guys say we can only pay 135. I'm gonna say that I want 135, or I'm gonna say I want 140, and like because I don't want you guys to pay me any less than what you can pay me. So
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's so important for women to know is that job is not going to hesitate on what they are asking from you, so you do not hesitate on what you are asking from it.
right. It's a
Um,
service. You're providing your services in exchange for money. It's not. You're not doing them a favor. They're not doing you
correct.
a favor. You're working. Okay, so get your money's worth.
That is so good. Yeah. Like Fumi was touching on is when I started interviewing back in 2021 or yeah, I was making like 64,000 in yeah, 2021 at the end of 2021. And I was starting to interview and I was just like, as long as I make more than my last job, anything more is better. So when recruiters would ask me how much, I'd be like, oh, about 75. And I just thought I was so cute. And it was like I was getting crazy interviews. And two of those recruiters at different companies like laughed at me while we were on the phone. And I was like, couldn't figure out why they were laughing. Fast forward to me getting my first six-figure role, I still asked them for like 75 to 85. And when the offer came in, it was 100,000 even and plus equity. And I was like, oh my God, this is what they were laughing about. I had undercut myself by about 30,000 more. And that is like commonplace. So now, funny enough, I was looking back at my old job, same job I used to work. Basically, that same role, the top of the range is 80,000 more. Now, I don't know well, actually, they did go public. So that is probably why there's more funding available. So I can't say I don't know what's going on. But another thing that I think is important too is one, wait till you have an offer to negotiate. These recruiters will start to ask you early on, what's your number? Try not to say the number first. Anytime they ask me, I'm going to put it back in their court. What salary range do you have? And things like that. And no matter what's happening, you never want to tell your next job how much you were making in your last job. I don't care if you were making 50 cents.
I don't
It's
even ask you that. I don't even.
Yeah, it's not, but there are some recruiters that I think either don't know or don't think you know
Yeah,
that will still try to ask that question.
yeah,
So always negotiate. I usually negotiate like more like I'll do 2 rounds, like back and forth. Usually is like the
yeah.
most I've done. Most companies won't resend an offer, but that's crazy because you wonder like what people are thinking, but
Yeah.
that's the information that you're privy to. But I never knew that they will. I guess it depends on the company's budget. If they can't afford you,
Yeah.
then they can't afford you.
So it's really a fine balance, right? It's like,
Yeah,
like people are scared to push back. I think you should at least do it a couple times. Like, but if they're like, also read the tone of voice. Like, if they're like, we really have no money, like, we
yeah,
all we can do, like, we promise, like, okay. They're like, you can't just pull 150 out of nowhere. I understand the economics. You have a budget for this role. It's just like you want to just make sure you're getting what you're worth. And I've had people, I've done negotiations where they're like, no, we can't do anything more than this, and that's it. So if you want it, you want it. If you don't, you don't. And then that's on me to decide, okay, can I live with this or not? But it's like, for the most part, they're not just going to reject you, right? With that
right.
Genius one, we went back and forth a couple times. There's like, this is our final offer. And I was like, okay, I accept. But I guess if I didn't accept their final offer, then they'll be like, okay, we won't move forward, So that's it. It's gonna take some like back and forth to even get to the point where they would be like, no, we're just gonna walk away. So you don't want to show that you're like so money hungry, but like you don't also want to undercut yourself at all. Like that is gonna feel so bad if you find out later that you left 30K on the table. Like,
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, and that's like even too with that job, also make sure you ask for a starting bonus, not just a
yes,
bonus, because there are some companies I've tested this out. Is that if you say, do you offer bonuses, they will say no. But if you say, do you offer starting bonuses, they will say yes. I don't know what kind of regulation that is, but it is like across the board type of thing that they will not, tell you. And I ended up finding out as I was leaving an old company that my coworkers, same position, less experience, have knew that they were giving starting bonuses and got a $5,000 bonus, which really would have helped me when I was
yeah,
relocating from Dallas to Houston.
yeah. It's a great
So
because there's other aspects of negotiation besides base salary, right? So if
yeah,
you guys can't come up, maybe you could give me that 10K as a bonus, and my base salary will still be the same, so your budget
correct.
will not be too affected. It's not an annual thing, but then of course, are you going to get that bonus next year? That's a consideration.
That's a question. Yes, you can negotiate for equity or time off, things like that. So this has been so wonderful. Okay, so let's move into our somebody should have told me moment. What is something, Fumi, that somebody should have told you in hindsight about whether it's EA, salary negotiation, managing executive relationships?
Yes, I think this is what I think, just in general, but
Mhm.
specifically can apply to anything. It's always the first time is always the hardest. Like it's so
Hmm.
cliche to say, but it's like I think we often get in our head so much. I've done this with what I could give a great example for the wedding planning. My wedding planning. So in my first wedding plan, I did like a bridal show, and I did a really nice like tablescape whatever, and I really only thought like 10 people max. I'd be happy if 10 people stopped by. I wasn't looking for a ton of people, but I got 60 leads. I got 60
Wow.
people to sign up that were interested in my services. I'm not a person who enjoys public speaking as much as I'm on social media. In social media, you're talking to your own, you're talking to your face, you're talking to yourself, and I love talking to myself. But public
Yeah.
speaking and like just like I'm an introvert. Where you say you're an extrovert, I'm an introvert. So
Hmm.
I had that list of 60 people for like 2 3 weeks, and I did nothing with them. I didn't call them. I didn't call because I was so scared. I'm like, when I call them, what am I gonna say? What if they're not interested? Like I just was psyching myself out. And then like 3 weeks down the line, it was like, okay, Funmi, like you can't, you have to. Like, what are you doing? Like these are people who are interested. I started to make the calls by force. And then some people were like, oh yeah, like we were really interested, but like we didn't hear from you, so we moved on. And that was my like light bulb moment. I'm like, wow, like my fear like led me to miss out on leads, miss out on potential clients and opportunities. And when I actually made that first phone call, I was like, okay, this wasn't even so bad. Like, why was I even psyching myself out? Like, this was not bad at all. The second call was easier. By the 10th call, I had the script memorized. I was just like,
Yeah.
I knew what I was going to say. So I wish somebody would have told me, somebody should have told me, like, the first time is hard, but just do it anyway. Like, just persevere, push through. And I think that is something that I'm really um, internalizing with my like 6-figure EA, my social media journey, my EA journey. Like, just do it, and then it might work out, it might not, but you're gonna get feedback. You're gonna learn from that experience. You're gonna iterate, and the next time is gonna be better. The next time is gonna be even easier. The fourth time is gonna be like, why was I even freaking out about this anyway? This is I got this. This is the back of my hand. So
Hmm.
yeah, just take a risk, just do the hard things. Like it's not really as it's all in your head. You're making it way more than it is. Like, so yeah.
That is so good. I love that. Okay, so my somebody should have told me, you actually kind of told me today. A light clicked on for me when you were talking about just it being an employer's market, because just trying to speak to pain points where they are, it's like we're a long way past COVID, but then kind of people did like move past that, like it didn't just happen, not too long ago. um and just realizing the things that I'm observing are not necessarily as unique to me
Yeah.
as I thought. There are many people that are seeing these changes in the job market, changes in the industry. It's even when you're talking about that question of adaptability and work style, I'm like, she is thinking what I've been thinking. But kind of you sitting on the other side of the interview, seeing what that feedback does for candidates, was very enlightening. So with that, still like moving forward within faith, keep maintaining optimism. You do this on a daily. You coach executive assistants to that 6-figure mark. You have been able to do that for yourself multiple times. So tell us about your services and where people can connect with you and find more of your information.
Yeah, so I'm 6-figure EA, SIX figure EA, on
Mhm.
all platforms: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube as well. So some of the services I offer, I do a lot of executive assistant advice, tips, and tricks, and it seemed like my audience wanted something more deep, a deeper dive. So I have an executive assistance 101 course that I created. So this is going to be great for people who are interested in being an EA. It's going to teach you those 5 core skills that I mentioned, plus the extras. It's going to teach you how to build that relationship with your executive, and also teach you how to translate all these new skills into a career, like how to land a job, how to structure your resume, all that stuff. So I think that will be very helpful for like entry level EAs or those who want to pivot into the EA role. I do offer coaching calls as well. So if you ever want to speak one on one with me, you could book a coaching call with me and we could make a game plan for you. I have some digital products. I have an interview playbook that is very helpful for those specifically looking for EA roles. There is a ChatGPT prompt in there to make the answers more related to whatever role you're in if you're not an executive assistant. But if you're an EA, definitely a great resource for your job hunt. I also have an EA dossier, a dossier template.
Oh, that's good.
That dossier template that we were talking about earlier, that contains all your executives' personal information and some other things. So I think it's always good to have like their direct reports in there, maybe the addresses, birthdays of the direct reports, so you can send them like birthday presents or whatever on behalf of their executives. So super comprehensive template. Yeah, and so those are most of my products. Everything can be found on my website, sixfigureea.com. Yeah, so check.
Yes,
Guys.
you really got it going on. She has amazing services. So if you feel like you need a coach, I've seen her put out content on everything from walking through your numbers, interview practice. She's got her consultations and all the things. I've been following her for some time, and I think, the things that you put out are great. Me, I have my book, Majesty 6 Steps to Six Figures. I'm the get money girl. So if you need my help on negotiations, all of our links are going to be in the show notes of this episode, on YouTube, Instagram, all the things in the audio. And if today was helpful for you, please share it with a friend. We hope that we inspired you. We hope that we have given you some practicality of what you can move forward, how you can make the best out of this time, how you can leverage your skill set, and how to navigate the day to day once that door finally opens for you. So until next time, I will see you on the next episode. This has been a wonderful installment of the Somebody Should Have Told Me podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye.
Hello, it's Majesty here, and I'm your host of the Somebody Should Have Told Me podcast, where we talk about our convictions, our career, our coins, and just overall wellness. I want you to check out my ebook, Majesty 6 Steps to Six Figures, where I show you how to get the salary you deserve. So click the link in the show notes, the bio, wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, and let me show you how to get to the money. All right.